players. If you're new here, in the zone players for us is our player of the week essentially. They're going into the zone. They're in the zone. For me, it's Derrick Henry. Obviously 153 at Tutty. Definitely his last game, and just the absolute class to come out there, thank the fans, give him a heartfelt speech. Did seem a little emotional there for me. And to end that, the King Henry era in Nashville. So I'm going to be honest, Nashville, it's I got engaged in your city, so I do have a little personal connection down there right outside the stadium. Not a Titans fan, but it's cool scenery down there. And for me, it's just the end of an era there. I think you're in for some dark times down there for a minute. You got to figure it out.
Couple years till they're good again.
Yeah, I'm not crazy about moving on from Vrabes. Vrabes is a good coach, and
the thing I don't understand about that is you move on from Mike Vrabel, and do you think you can get somebody better than him?
Who's better? Who are you going to bring in that's better? We'll get into that in the next.
Yeah, I mean, because I think all the good coaches aren't going to want to go there.
It's going to be tough, but we'll get into that later. Here, for me, Derrick Henry's my number one guy this week.
Yep, and I have two guys, both quarterbacks that I both. And
who's your number one?
My number one. So my number one, I'm going to go with Jordan Love. Just because I know I'm not going to spend too much time because we just talked about Jordan Love, but I mean Jordan Love in a situation where he needed to win, got it done, played very well down the stretch. He's coming into his own. His first year as a starter. It's gonna take some time. It's gonna take some time, and I think going into next year, he's setting himself up for success for next year to really get it going. He has his receivers playing very well. He's making them look a little bit better than what they are. I mean, he doesn't have very many big names playing receiver.
They're young.
They're young guys.
There's some talent. They're young.
But Jordan Love, he played his team right into a playoff spot. I mean, I know they needed help, and I know they got their help with Seattle losing, with New Orleans losing, with Minnesota losing. They got their help that they needed. I don't know how many of those teams they needed to lose. I think it was New Orleans and Seattle they needed to lose, but they both lost. So...
Yeah, they definitely got the help they needed.
New Orleans didn't.
New Orleans
won, but never mind. But they needed. Seattle they needed to lose, but yeah.
But you just look at that game for me, and compared to last year, Rodgers had the same chance last year and lost that game.
Yep.
So I mean,
Jordan Love won the game. They got him in, and I mean, shout out to Jordan Love. I mean, I think he's going to be a very good quarterback in the next couple of years. Shout out to him. Good for him. Packers win this week. Reiterate that one. Fuck the Cowboys.
All right, for my second one here too. It's a very similar situation to yours. Mine's C.J. Stroud. Yeah. Obviously, that's a win and get in game. He had 264 yards, 2 touchdowns, 20 more yards on the ground. Yep. Had to win that game. Got a little help with the drop ball, but he put his team. He did everything he had to do. Led that drive late, and put him in the end zone. Yep. I don't know. I remember I was just a sucker for heartfelt freaking speeches after games this week because he gave a nice interview afterwards, and then and obviously Ryan in the locker room there too. CJ Stroud won me over this week, so yeah. I'm all in.
I don't know how you can't like CJ Stroud.
You have to like. He seems like a great kid.
Yep. And we'll touch base. My second player of the week. Similar situation to what Jordan Love was in. Had to play his team in. Had to get the big win. I know it was a little rough, and there were a couple turnovers along the way, but Josh Allen. I mean, the Bills, they lose Ken Dorsey earlier in the season when Ken Dorsey goes down. Joe Brady, which I think is a rising coach in the NFL, will be an NFL head coach in the next couple years.
I love Joe Brady.
Everybody might know Joe Brady from the 2020 LSU Tigers.
Days. He made Joe Burrow.
Yeah. He ends up getting a job in the NFL.
As a quarterback coach, which surprised me. He did come in as an OC. He was obviously the OC at LSU, and they played well. And I love Joe Brady. I think he's the next great coach in the league. I really do. Honestly, I think he should be getting some interviews this year. I don't know if he will. Maybe a little too soon. But
maybe too soon.
If I'm an owner, I'm calling the dude.
Yeah.
I'm going to have a conversation because I think he's a brilliant young mind.
Absolutely. And, so you look into it, Josh Allen had a little bit of adversity to overcome. You lose your OC, you get a new OC. Anytime you do that, it's going to be tough. Might be good on the back end of it because they were struggling with Dorsey.
Yeah, they were.
But Dorsey goes, Brady comes in, and here's Josh Allen playing very well. what do you end up having this year? 44 touchdowns. You said it was total touchdowns.
Yeah, I believe
we talked about that earlier in the game.
44, 45, somewhere around
there. But I mean, Josh Allen,
rushing touchdowns.
Everybody. We were talking about this a little bit earlier, but like at one point in the season, there were 2 spots open in the AFC wild card, 6 and 7. There's about 5 or 6 teams that are all tied at some point. They lose to Denver, which is kind of a blow on their season. Like it kind of took them off guard a little bit. So they lose there, and you're like, okay, what's Buffalo going to do? Buffalo might not make the playoffs. Buffalo wins a couple games, get themselves in it, and now they end up beating Miami the last week of the season, and bam, they're the number 2 seed in the AFC.
They went from not in to maybe get in, and then they won the division.
Yeah, they win the division. Now they can host 2 home games, which good for them. Josh Allen is a big part of them. I know there's a lot of people that don't love Josh Allen, but Josh Allen plays great.
He should have been a Pro Bowler.
Yeah. Bullshit. Yeah. Josh Allen's one of the best quarterbacks in the league. I think he showed it. So he's one of my player of the weeks, playing his team right into where they need to be. And here we are talking about the Bills being a top contender in the AFC again.
Yeah, and the hype's down a little bit on it. I think maybe that could take a little pressure off, and maybe they can go on a run this year.
And I
do have them on a game line too in the bowl on one of mine. So
I'm going to say it right now. The Bills are my AFC choice for the Super Bowl. I think the Bills win this week. I think the Bills take out the Chiefs next week, because I think the Chiefs end up winning the game in Miami. I think the Bills take out the Chiefs, and then the Bills have a hard road because you got to play the Chiefs and you have to play the Ravens, and the Ravens are playing very, very well.
Yeah.
But if the Ravens get through, I still think Joe Flacco might be able to spoil that. But the Bills are my AFC choice.
Yeah, I wouldn't be opposed to it. I still have a hard time going away from Kansas City.
It's hard to bet against.
It's hard to bet against Kansas City.
But
it really is.
You see so many games, Buffalo and Kansas City, like especially that one.
I'm not going to be surprised if the Ravens go for it either. I think this year is one of the few years that there's a lot of things that could happen.
Yeah.
Normally you come into the playoffs and there's 2, 3 teams that you're like, okay, these are the clear cut favorites. I don't think there's a clear cut favorite this year outside of the Niners, and the Niners can be beat.
Yeah.
So I don't think anybody's unbeatable this year for sure.
And we saw a really weird season.
It's been a crazy year. So
you got to think we're going to have a weird postseason.
How many quarterbacks got hurt this year? So obviously, no, knock on wood, nothing happens in the playoffs, but it very well could.
Yeah,
we've lost a ton of quarterbacks this year.
I think we're going to have a weird postseason. I really do.
It's going to be crazy.
I can see the Browns making the AFC Championship game.
That one, I don't know.
I do. I mean, I can just see it. I can see the Packers making a run. Couple things. It's going to be interesting to see. I can see the Rams making a run.
I can see the Rams making. Yeah,
I'm excited for these games this week.
So it's a wide open season this year. But that'll do it for our in the zone players. Would you name your second one?
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And now we'll get into the red players here. For those who don't know, those are the guys who just sucked. And for me this week, my first pick, I'm gonna go outside the NFL a little bit here. The Washington Huskies in that national championship game. Your offensive line and your defensive line was atrocious. For me, y'all got to be better. Should have won that game, in my opinion, if the O-line plays a little better.
Yeah.
I don't think the officiating was super great.
No.
We'll touch on the natty.
You got
here
Penix rushing a couple balls because he had to.
Yeah, Penix didn't look great in that game. He did some balls. He definitely was playing hurt in the second half of that game.
Yeah.
A lot of gutsy performance out of him. But the O-line, Mason Graham, 8 y'all.
Mason Graham is a dog. He's an absolute dog.
In the first half, the D-line there could not stop the run. Hit 208 yards or something at halftime.
Donovan Edwards touched the ball twice and had 80 yards and 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, and Blake Corum wasn't far behind.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
They even had their third-string running back. Mullins was in there running the hell out of the ball.
Yeah, the D-line was not great in that game. The second half, they definitely tightened up, played better in the second half, but the O-line, D-line for me, got to be better than that, especially in the big moment.
Yeah. So we'll get into one of my in-red players here. Now, mine isn't a player. Mine's going to be a coach. I know we did a little bit of this last week. My first one is going to be Arthur Smith, the now former head coach of the Atlanta Falcons. Mainly because, anytime you lose your job as a coach, you got to be in the red consideration, right?
Fired on his day off.
Yeah, he got fired on his day off. I think reason he's my in the red guy for me is the way he went out too. You get your ass kicked by a division opponent the last week of the season.
Almost getting a fight at midfield.
Yeah, and I understand what Jameis Winston did. Jameis Winston, if anybody's going to do what Jameis Winston did, it's Jameis Winston.
Yeah.
Like, Jameis Winston is the funniest player in the NFL. I think he's just a fucking clown, and I think he's not that great of a quarterback. Never has
30-30. Only one in the 30-30
yeah. Never has been, and I mean, like, I think he's trying to compensate in other ways, like just being the funniest guy, like somebody's drunk uncle at the barbecue. Like, goes out there winning by 30 points, and he says, you know what, we got to get our boy Jamal Williams a touchdown. Yeah. And Jamal Williams, I mean, he could very well be having this award this week too, because he goes from leading the league in touchdowns with 17 touchdowns last year to getting his first touchdown in an unplanned call by Jameis Winston to say fuck it to our coaching staff, and we're going to get this guy in the end zone when they're in victory formation on the 1 yard line.
I would like to have seen that in the locker room, that conversation with to go out there and override your head coach. Matt.
Oh my God, that is absolutely hilarious. And then Dennis Allen, the first thing he says when he gets on the podium is, "I want to apologize to Arthur Smith."
Yeah, I mean,
Arthur Smith freaking out in the middle of the field like that, like what the fuck was that? Freaking out on Dennis Allen, that's bullshit.
He wanted to throw a pause. He wanted to throw a pause there.
I tell you what, he went out crying like a baby back bitch. And I don't feel bad for him at all, because when you have 3 straight years and you pick offensive talent in the first round, you pick Drake London, you pick Kyle Pitts, you pick Bijan Robinson, and you can't win the worst division in football. I mean, I understand the quarterback is a huge concern there. I mean, they probably should have did a better job at trying to either develop Desmond Ridder.
They had options. They could have went out and got some guys.
They could have,
and they chose not.
They could have went. They wanted to ride with Ridder, and I mean, the way that Bijan Robinson was utilized this year
was very weird.
Very weird.
It got better late.
It did get better late, but like early in the season, you're riding Tyler Algier, and Cordell Patterson was getting carries late in the season, like. What the fuck are you doing? That's probably hard. Part of the reason why you lost your job, buddy.
It's hard to figure out what he was doing there.
Yeah, I mean, now you're gonna get a coach that goes in there now. It's hopefully utilizes the talent a lot better than you, and it's gonna make you look like a fucking fool. And the main reason why he's in the red player this week, you go out looking like a bitch because your team couldn't fucking stop the New Orleans Saints, who pretty much stopped themselves all fucking year.
Yeah, they weren't great this year. But,
Arthur Smith will be an offensive coordinator next year for somebody. I can see him wherever Vrabel goes, wherever Mike Vrabel ends up. I can see Arthur Smith going back with him to be the OC because they had a lot of good years together.
Yeah, I wouldn't be shocked by that.
Yeah. So, but Arthur Smith this week, not a good look for you, buddy.
Yeah, for mine, and this one's tough for me. This one hurts my heart a little bit. There's a couple weeks here. I mean, obviously, I called Travis Kelce out that a couple weeks ago. Here, I mean, for me, it's the way Bill Belichick went out. Obviously, the end of the era. He's now officially, today was a tough day for me with him stepping down or mutually parting ways or whatever bullshit you want to call it.
Yeah, whatever you want to call it. The politically correct way.
Yeah, the politically correct way to fire somebody, I guess. It was a tough day, obviously, for that. Watching that press conference and Bill getting a little emotional, making a joke in there too, very un-Bill-like. But Bill, I mean, you lost the Jets, and that's the very last game that we're going to remember you as a New England Patriot. He's an all-time great as far as the coaching goes. So for me, just the way the offense looked so shitty the last few weeks, and then to come out and not be able to put one on the Jets, I really thought he'd at least win the last one. But hey, does lock us into the three overall. Yeah, the number 3 pick. So
pretty much guaranteed for a quarterback, right?
I would imagine.
Yeah.
Whether we trade up or just stay there and take Daniels, most likely is there at 3.
I like.
Does help us there.
I like Jaden Daniels there.
I do too.
Yeah, I think Jaden Daniels adds a dynamic to that offense, and the offense has lacked.
The offense has been boring for a long time. Even when
Mac Jones, when Brady was there,
the offense was still kind of boring.
It was always boring.
But it was just very systematic.
2-step drop and balls out.
Very, very quick, short pass game, that kind of deal, but it worked.
Yep.
For me, it's just Bill. Bill going out, losing to the Jets.
And just touching on Bill here for a second, greatest coach in my opinion of all time.
I don't think it's a question.
No. But tell you what, the city of New York did him dirty. He goes out losing to the Jets, and what were his only 2 Super Bowl losses?
That's the Giants.
To the New York Giants. The New Jersey Giants.
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah. really, it's kind of shitty to go out for Bills, but to lose to the Jets.
Did you see the stat thing I posted this week about the New England's? It's crazy when you actually look at this. New England lost Super Bowl 20. Obviously before Bill and all them. 46-10. Minus 36-point differential, then go on to win 6 Super Bowls.
Yeah.
And still today are a minus 36-point differential, and how close those games were over the time. It's crazy stat. It's like Jesus.
I did see that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but end of an era there. I hope for your sake it's. I would really like to see Gerard Mayo there. I understand it'll probably be the more boring, the same boring team it's been, but Gerard Mayo is a player's guy.
Yeah.
Maybe he'll get an offensive coordinator like somebody like Ben Johnson that gets in there and.
I don't think Ben Johnson's the head coach.
Well, no, I'm saying Ben like somebody like that. Yeah, it's gonna.
Give me Joe Brady.
That's gonna That's gonna
Gerard Mayo, give me Joe Brady, and I'm happy.
Somebody that's gonna make the offense good.
I like.
He better not
Mayo.
keep Steve Belichick around to call the offense. Let's put it that way. That's what I'm saying.
I hope not.
So, but finish it off in the red player, and this is another one. You said this one hurts for you. This one hurts for me because I followed this guy since coming out of high school. To me, he's been the best quarterback. I thought he was going to be one of the best quarterbacks in the league coming out. He's number 1 recruit coming out of high school, number 1 recruit coming out of college, and just completely just flopping in the NFL and just isn't doing anything spectacular. And he's losing big games and he's throwing it away. It's Trevor Lawrence. I mean, he has all the talent in the world to be a great quarterback and he's not doing it.
He's not getting it done. Yeah,
not getting it done.
I don't disagree at all.
And he goes in this week, and you are considered to be an elite quarterback in this league, in my opinion, which I think he has the potential to be. He's not yet. I think he has the potential to be there, but you have to go out and you have to beat the worst team in your division, who is going out like the team after this year. The team is on a complete rebuild.
Yeah, it's going
to be bad for a long time.
Yeah,
all you have to do is go out and beat them, and you are division champions. You are hosting a playoff game against Cleveland Browns this week. And you can't get it done.
Yeah, somehow you find a way to
the last drive of the game, you're down by 8, you can go down the field, and you just can't hit your receivers. You're throwing out routes that are just 10 yards over the receiver's head. Like, dude, you gotta be better than that. Doug Peterson needs to be better than that. Their defense needs to play better. But you are a quarterback in the NFL at the position you are, and the position where you were picked, and the hype around you. You need to play better. Like you're not Brock Purdy that went out and was drafted Mr. Irrelevant, where nobody expects anything out of you.
The expectations are definitely different depending on
like Trevor Lawrence. His expectations were to be a Hall of Fame quarterback and nothing else. If he's not a Hall of Fame quarterback, he is a flop.
It's a disappointment.
He's a flop. Sure. So the way he went out and played, and who knows? Trevor Lawrence could go out, win a couple Super Bowls, become a Hall of Fame quarterback. Right now, he's not showing. If I had to bet today if he was going to be that guy, I would bet against it.
I would agree. I would agree for me.
But Trevor Lawrence, I love you, dude. Don't ever cut your hair because I think you look fucking retarded. But yeah, you're in the bottom here for me this week. Hopefully, you guys can figure it out next year.
Yeah, it's going to be a long offseason for that. Obviously, disappointing way that finished there.
We can do that.
Yeah.